Sleep is the greatest performance enhancer that we have on this planet, says Kristen Holmes, the head of human performance and principal scientist at Whoop. Sleep is the foundation of health. It's the keystone, the backbone of your life. When sleep suffers, so does your willpower, motivation, energy, and performance. And from there, it trickles down into every other aspect of your life: your work, your relationships, your habits, and even your sense of self. That's why today I'd like to do a deep dive on sleep and what it even means to sleep well. This will be a long video covering everything from head to toe, so feel free to skip around different sections if you're looking for something specific. But if you're here for the deep dive, let's begin with the most fundamental question. Why is sleep so important? You see, sleep isn't just rest. It's a dynamic process where your body and brain are hard at work. Sleep happens in cycles with different stages that serve specific functions. First, there's light sleep, where your body starts to relax and prepare for deeper recovery. Then comes deep sleep. This is where physical restoration happens. Your body repairs muscles, regenerates tissues, and strengthens your immune system. And finally, there's REM sleep, the dreaming stage, where your brain consolidates memories, processes emotions, and sharpens your learning and problem-solving skills. This is your mental recovery zone. Each of these stages is crucial, and if you cut sleep short or disrupt these cycles in some way, these processes don't happen properly. And unfortunately, the consequences can be quite brutal. When you don't get enough quality sleep, your cognitive function plummets. Your memory, focus, and decision-making suffer. At the same time, stress hormones like cortisol skyrocket, leaving you anxious, irritable, and overwhelmed. On top of that, inflammation in your body starts to rise, and over time, this can lead to some serious health problems, things like heart disease, metabolic disorders, mental health issues, and even neurodegenerative conditions like Alzheimer's. Yikes. To understand why this happens, we need to first understand our circadian rhythm. The circadian rhythm is basically physical, mental, and behavioral changes within our bodies that happen over a 24-hour cycle. This internal clock resides in the hypothalamus, acting as the control center for all of your bodily systems. It is primarily synchronized by the natural light-dark cycle of the sun. While other signals can influence it, such as meal timing, physical activity, and temperature changes, light is by far the strongest and most important cue. This clock sends signals to every cell and tissue in your body, telling them what they should be doing in the presence of light and in the presence of darkness. But when you expose yourself to excessive bright light way past your biological bedtime, especially blue light, the wavelength most abundant in sunlight and therefore the key driver of these effects, it places significant stress on your system. Over time, this can lead to something called circadian disruption, and this disruption puts you at a much higher risk for all the diseases that I mentioned earlier. Viewing light during nighttime hours has a pro-depressive effect on your brain circuits, disrupting the dopamine system, the very system that governs your reward, motivation, and mood. In fact, research has found that circadian disruption is present in 100% of mental health disorders. Ultimately, how you interact with light shapes your health in meaningful ways, and aligning your habits with circadian rhythm is one of the simplest yet impactful ways to maintain balance and vitality. As you've probably heard before, great sleep doesn't just start at bedtime. It begins hours before you even think about hitting the pillow. So what are the steps that you can take to prepare yourself for a great night's sleep? Well, there are a few. Starting with the most obvious. Number 1. Limit your caffeine intake to mornings and early afternoons. Caffeine is one of the most common yet underestimated disruptors of sleep. Caffeine has a half-life of around 4 to 6 hours, meaning if you have coffee or tea in the late afternoon, half of that caffeine is still present in your system by bedtime, though this can vary based on factors like metabolism, age, and genetic sensitivity to caffeine. But even with individual variability in mind, this is still a good general guideline. One of caffeine's primary effects is delaying sleep onset, the time it takes to fall asleep. Caffeine blocks adenosine, a neurotransmitter that promotes sleepiness. This can make it harder to fall asleep even if you feel tired, and while you might eventually drift off, caffeine's presence in your system can fragment your sleep cycles, preventing you from entering the deeper, more restorative stages of sleep. These disruptions result in poor sleep quality, leaving you feeling less refreshed and restored when you wake up. So, to ensure high-quality sleep, it is better best to avoid caffeine at least 7 to 8 hours before bed, and ideally limit your intake to the morning or early afternoon hours. 2. Stop eating late. Meal timing is one of the biggest disruptors of a good night's sleep. Here's why. Digestion competes with restoration, as they are both functions of our parasympathetic rest and digest system. When you eat late at night, your body diverts significant resources towards metabolizing that food, taking them away from the essential repair and recovery processes that occur during sleep. This not only delays the onset of deep sleep, but also fragments your sleep cycles, leaving you feeling unrested. Studies show that if you stop eating 3 hours before bedtime, markers of both sleep and recovery improve exponentially. 3. Avoid alcohol. Alcohol is another major disruptor. If you drink in the evening, instead of repairing and recovering, your body spends the night processing the alcohol, leaving sleep essential restorative work incomplete. Besides that, alcohol also impacts our melatonin levels and sleep quality. A 2007 study found that consuming moderate amounts of alcohol just an hour before bed reduced melatonin production by nearly 20%. Another study from 2018 showed that even 1 glass of wine reduced sleep quality by 9.3%, while 2 glasses caused a 24% reduction. And while alcohol might make you feel sleepy at first and even help you fall asleep faster, it negatively affects REM sleep later in the night, fragmenting your sleep cycles and reducing sleep quality. Next, avoid artificial light. As you already know, light is the strongest cue and therefore the #1 disruptor of our circadian rhythms, and our devices are the biggest culprit here, as they all emit large amounts of blue wavelengths. Luckily, there are red and orange filters nowadays that you can add to your devices to limit this light. But our screens aren't the only issue. Most modern light sources emit at least some blue wavelengths, like LEDs or fluorescent light bulbs. These are major sources of melatonin disruption. So besides avoiding screen use in the evening and dimming your lights at home, I would highly recommend wearing blue light blocking glasses. They have specialized lenses that block out majority of this wavelength, and they're excellent at protecting your melatonin production before sleep. A great rule of thumb when it comes to sleep preparation is following the 3-2-1 rule. If there's only one thing that you take away from this whole section, it should be this. It is a simple, effective way to optimize your sleep preparation, and it goes 3 hours before bed, no food or alcohol. 2 hours before bed, no liquids, and 1 hour before bed, no screens or stimulating activities. I made a full video on this topic, which I'll link below if you're interested in diving deeper. But trust me, this rule alone will make a very big difference in the quality of your Zzzs. Okay, so now that you've structured your day in a way that aligns with a great night of sleep, when do you actually go to bed? Well, believe it or not, there's a biologically ideal window for sleep. The exact time will vary between individuals, but for most people, the best time to fall asleep is between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. And before you say that this does not apply to you, that you're a night owl, I'm gonna say something that will make you rethink your schedule. Before I dove deep into the research on sleep, I thought that the different stages of sleep begin as soon as you fall asleep, and they go in order of their natural progression. So no matter when you'd go to bed, as long as you would get your 7 to 8 hours, you're good. That is simply not true. Your sleep stages will not wait for you. Deep sleep and REM sleep are biologically programmed to occur at specific times within your circadian rhythm, that 24-hour clock we talked about earlier. They happen with or without you, when they're supposed to, not when you decide to go to bed. Let's take deep sleep, for example. The majority of deep sleep occurs during the first half of the night, typically between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., aligned with your body's natural drop in core body temperature, which happens around 8 and 9 p.m., and the melatonin surge that peaks between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. If you delay your bedtime, say sleeping at 2 a.m. instead of 10 p.m., you miss the optimal window for deep sleep. Your body doesn't just pause deep sleep for you to catch up later, it simply skips it or reduces it, leaving you without this restorative phase. To put this in perspective, you will likely not release sufficient human growth hormone that's needed for all the physical restoration that happens within your body, including muscle repair, tissue regeneration, and overall recovery. This is especially crucial for anyone who goes to the gym. So if you consistently skip the sleep stage, your performance, ability to recover from workouts and build muscle will definitely suffer. Sleeping outside of your biological rhythm can lead to something called circadian misalignment, which has been linked to issues like metabolic disorders, cardiovascular disease, mental health disorders, cancer, immune system dysregulation, issues with fertility, and many others. In fact, circadian disruption is classified as a probable human carcinogen by the World Health Organization. And just to emphasize just how important this point is, studies have shown that shift workers, that's anyone who works during night and sleeps during the day, on average are going to die 15 years sooner than people with regular day schedules due to the disruption of their circadian rhythm and the increased risk of health complications associated with irregular sleep patterns. So please, sleep when your body most needs it. Alright, so now that you're hopefully convinced about when you should be sleeping, there are just a few more things to optimize inside your bedroom, and only 3 words to remember: cool, dark, quiet. If you've got those 3 things down, you're golden. But let's see why they matter. Science says that the ideal temperature in your bedroom should range from 60 to 67 degrees Fahrenheit, that's 15 to 19 degrees Celsius. This range helps mimic the natural drop in your core body temperature that I mentioned earlier, signaling to your brain that it's time to rest. The ideal temperature for you, of course, will be based on individual tolerance and your level of comfort, so please do experiment with this one. We, for example, have tried many different temperature settings, but just couldn't tolerate anything within the ideal range and landed on sleeping at 70 degrees Fahrenheit. You might find that the perfect temperature for you also falls outside this window, but if your room is too warm, it can prevent your body temperature from dropping effectively. This leads to difficulty falling asleep, frequent awakenings, and less time spent in deep and REM sleep. As for the darkness, you already know that our circadian rhythm is super sensitive to light cues to regulate its wakefulness. Research shows that even a little dot from your alarm clock, charging LEDs, your TV, or a phone notification is going to emit enough light to disrupt the depth and quality of your sleep. Even with our eyes closed, and even the tiniest amount of light can signal to your brain that it's no longer night. Therefore, removing all visible light is essential for a great night of sleep. Blackout curtains are great, but they don't eliminate the issue with device lights. You could potentially tape over or eliminate all light sources from your room, but getting a good quality sleeping mask is a much simpler practice and something that I would highly recommend. Sleeping in a calm, peaceful environment is essential for quality sleep because sudden noise disrupts the brain's ability to achieve and maintain the deep restorative stages of sleep. Loud or sudden noise, even if it doesn't fully wake you, can pull your brain out of the deeper stages of sleep and into lighter stages, disrupting the natural progression of your sleep cycles. Noise triggers the brain's startle reflex. This activates the autonomic nervous system, which increases heart rate, blood pressure, and cortisol levels. Repeated interruptions from noise lead to fragmented sleep, which can leave you feeling tired, groggy, and less refreshed the next day. So if you live by a busy street and you can hear loud traffic noise at night, maybe you hear barking dogs, slamming doors, yelling, or any other sudden or inconsistent noise, you would highly benefit from something like a white noise machine. It offers a steady buffer noise that your brain can easily tune out, and with it, all of the noise that it masks. Earplugs would be another great solution, but you must make sure that they are comfortable and won't hurt your ears while you sleep. Now that you're aware of the things that are conducive to a proper night of sleep, let's talk about how to keep this positive momentum going. One word: regularity. Your body thrives on regularity. Going to bed and waking up at the same time every day, even on weekends, is crucial for maintaining a strong circadian rhythm. Sticking to a consistent schedule trains your body to know exactly when to wind down and when to wake up, making sleep feel more effortless. A recently published study from the UK Biobank examined the data of 60,000 people, recording over 10 million nights of sleep. what they found was striking. Sleep regularity, not sleep duration, predicted mortality. In other words, individuals with irregular sleep patterns had a higher risk of death, regardless of the total amount of sleep they obtained. This is not to say that sleep duration isn't important or that other factors such as diet, exercise, and stress levels aren't at play here. But even so, the evidence strongly underscores the critical role that consistent sleep patterns play in the overall health. No matter how much time you spend in bed, the consistency of when you go to bed and wake up plays a far more critical role in predicting longevity. The key to maintaining a regular sleep-wake cycle is stabilizing when you wake up. Understandably, you can't always go to bed at the same time. Sometimes you want to prioritize evening plans, but even so, you are in charge of when to wake up in the morning. Waking up consistently sets your circadian rhythm for the next day, ensuring that you will feel sleepy at the right time. This regularity strengthens your internal clock, supporting optimal health on every level. And finally, let's talk about what happens if sleep were not your priority. If you consistently skimp on quality sleep, you may begin to accumulate something called sleep debt, and it is not a pretty thing. Sleep debt is the gap between the sleep your body needs and the sleep that you actually get. This sleep debt doesn't just simply disappear. It accumulates, and you have to pay it back in order to fully recover. The effects of sleep debt are both immediate and far-reaching. For every 45 minutes of sleep deprivation, research shows a 5 to 10% drop in next-day mental control and executive function, your ability to make decisions, solve problems, and think critically. But it doesn't stop there. A 2021 study found that consistently sleeping less than 7 hours significantly increases the risk of injury. If this pattern continues for just 14 days, the likelihood of muscle and bone injuries nearly doubles. What makes sleep deprivation so insidious is that you often can't tell when you're operating at a lower level. Your body and brain adapt to this diminished state, but everyone around you feels it. It's reflected in your facial expressions, your tone of voice, the kind of eye contact you make, your patience, and your ability to connect with others. The good news is you don't have to repay sleep debt all at once. Start by adding 30 to 60 minutes of extra sleep per night, or incorporating short daytime naps. Gradual recovery is far more effective and sustainable than trying to binge sleep on weekends. Short naps that are around 10 to 20 minutes can help reduce the immediate effects of sleep debt, like fatigue and poor focus. But do be careful, as longer naps too close to your bedtime can significantly disrupt your nighttime sleep. And while one long night of sleep might leave you feeling better the next day, it won't erase the effects of chronic sleep debt. To fully recover, aim for at least 1 week or more of consistent, high-quality sleep, especially if your sleep debt has been building for months. So now that you know all this, I truly hope that sleep jumps up in your priorities list. When you prioritize sleep, you truly prioritize a good life, good well-being, self-care, and being the best version of yourself, as sleep directly affects your presence and performance in all other areas of your life. Sleep is one of the most powerful tools you have for improving your health, energy, and the quality of your life. But like anything worth having, it requires intention and care. So to summarize, the most important takeaways: light, especially blue light, is the biggest cue for wakefulness. To prevent circadian misalignment, protect your eyes from this light after the sun goes down. Follow the 3-2-1 rule for preparing for sleep. Make sure your room is cool, dark, and quiet. Go to bed and wake up at the same time each day. Ideally, your sleep window should be somewhere from 9-11 p.m. to 6 or 8 a.m. That said, the exact time matters less than consistency. And if you've sacrificed on sleep on one of your weekends, make sure you repay your sleep debt by sticking to the hacks you learned in this video. Thank you so much for watching. I truly hope you found this content valuable. As always, I will have all the research and studies that I mentioned linked here in the description below. If you enjoy videos on health, longevity, biohacking, and more, you should stick around. I'll be making more content like this in the future, and I'm always open to suggestions on what you want to see next. So leave a comment below, and I'll see you in my next one.